2022 Stanley Cup champions.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I'm Nick. Below me here is Britt. And off to the side, I can't even get my directions right. We have a very special guest here. It's Bronco Bill, Broncos Breakdown. Bill, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, thanks. Other than the Bronco game, but yeah, I'm doing fine.
Yeah, it was a 9-10 loss.
Like always.
Like always, yeah. We're gonna. I guess Friday's episode on the network for Broncos Breakdown. It's going to be a lot of emotion filled. Is my anticipation as always. But anyway, we got a lot to cover, so we'll go ahead and jump into it. We brought Bill on because we need the emotional urge to cope with everything that happened within the week.
I'm not quite sure you're going to want to hear the emotional after the 2 of the 3 games, but
yep.
Anyway.
So anyways, before we go ahead and get started into the nitty gritty of it, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow on all the social media platforms to make sure you're notified when the show. Whoops, my microphone's falling here. To get notified when the show goes live, you can follow it on MHRT Network, and then if you want to follow us individually. You can follow us at Clusterpuck Avs on Twitter and Instagram, and then the Clusterpuck Podcast on Facebook, and clusterpuckpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any comments, concerns, emotional outbursts, especially after this week, I would expect to get a lot of those. So anyways, I don't even know where to start with this last week. Just not a week that you'd like to have, even with the win, it still felt like a loss, to be honest with you. And I don't know what you could and couldn't chalk it up to, but just ultimately there were just so many injuries, bad play. It just was just a nightmare weekend, honestly. Bill, let's go ahead and get your thoughts on the week overall, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritty.
All right, I'm going to start out the game against the Winnipeg Jets. Okay, we lose that game 4-0. Seriously? 4-0. No goals. We look flat as a pancake. And then we go to Buffalo and we win 6-3. So I'm thinking, okay, great. We got the momentum going into Boston. Nope. I'll tell you what, that Boston team is scary. That Boston team is ridiculously scary. That offense, and then they're smothering of McKinnon. I mean, McKinnon could do anything and everything he wants to normally. They smothered him like a wet blanket. Yeah. And that game, I'm telling you what, if it comes down to Stanley Cup between Boston and Colorado, that's going, I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it.
That's if they only have to shut Mac's line down. I mean, they pretty much had to cover Mac, and there was nothing else to it. I mean,
exactly.
Hey, guys, Olmark's got it, and we'll just get Mac over here.
No, and I understand that we have a lot of injuries, and that's not an excuse because every team has injuries, but we have key injuries. I mean, ridiculously key injuries.
Like, I'm so exasperated with it all. I think that it's like, I guess maybe like context to the way we're playing, maybe more so than excuse, but it's just at this point, it's just like, and I'm one of those people that I can't stand, like, don't go on about the refs. Don't go on about every call. Don't go on about every injury. But at what point do you just tap out,
Right. Now, was that fight in early on in the Boston game, and there was a lot of hard hits in the game, but that fight, do you think that was a frustration fight? Because it looked to me like it was a frustration fight, like a spark, like let's get this team going, and just never materialized.
I would hope so. I don't know if it was good frustration or bad frustration. I mean, I don't know. And then Jacob McDonald, like, why would you go pick him to fight? Like, what are you doing?
Well, they
that-
say he was filling in for Manson.
and McDermott.
Doing what
I mean,
Manson and McDermott would do. Yeah.
Yeah.
everybody's got their opinions on like McDermott and his role and blah blah blah, but like this is a game that you want McDermott. Like it's very we felt vulnerable from puck drop. And I mean, when you consider it just really wasn't that bad of a game, particularly if you eliminate the 8 seconds with 2 goals. It just wasn't that bad. And like these penalties, we're getting all these penalties, and that's chalked up to AHL players that can't handle keeping up. We're getting hooking, we're getting slashing, we're getting stupid stuff because these AHL guys, they're not capable of playing at an NHL level, and that's glaringly obvious by our penalties. Especially like a penalty shot is just basically the epitome of can't keep up, can't lost you and can't keep up. So I don't know. It's hard. I mean, we're on a podcast and we're talking here, but it is kind of to the point where it's like, what do you say? And I don't know if you guys saw the news, but there was just a tweet that there are trade rumors, trade connection between the Canucks and the Colorado Avalanche. So,
Oh boy,
about to double our bonus.
Oh boy.
So we'll see, but they'll probably say this like, I don't know.
I'm gonna throw out a question. I'm gonna throw out a question to you guys, both of you, really quick. The 4-0 loss or the 5-1 loss, which one was worse?
The 4-0 loss.
I would say Winnipeg's.
That game looked lazy. That game looked sleepy and lazy, and Boston felt. I can't even think of the word. Like they look demoralized, like in a way that you can't control. You know what I mean? Beyond a sleepy, and I posted that thing on Cluster Park Podcast, which I'm sure you guys saw on our socials yesterday. About, what do you think about scheduled losses? And I did have somebody comment, and they kind of elaborated more where my mindset was. And when I say scheduled loss, I generally mean from like a media and a fan standpoint. I don't think McKinnon like literally probably races old ladies like in shopping cart. He's not scheduling a loss, but there is that aspect that sometimes they might get to the point where it's just like, damn dude, like, and especially when you're playing, I want to believe that we're building our endurance, but Cale Makar, shockingly, I know that many of us do not know this, but he is human, and he can't play 32 minutes a night we have 13 games in December. We are and then we get to do it again Friday, Boston again. So I think the Winnipeg loss pissed me off. The Boston loss was like, what are you gonna do? They're the best team in the NHL right now. Their goalie's hot. They're douchers. I mean, they pushed us around. Greer, I would love to meet him in a dark alley, and my God, I wish Pat McDermott would be back. And I don't know, like, if he's got like beef because we didn't, because he's not one of us. But like, I don't know.
How do you really feel, Britt? How do you really feel?
Well, and you bring up a good point. Actually, is given kind of where we are in the schedule versus where all of our injured players are, you're kind of, you're happy that it's out of the way now, but it's just really frustrating because you're not playing these high-end teams like a Boston or even a Winnipeg now, that you have your full and complete team and there, and that's
the way they celebrate, and it's like,
I know
you truly cannot be stupid enough to think that you just beat the Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah,
right?
but that's the thing though. It's all with the name and not the squad, So even though they'll see like, oh, we're playing the Avalanche, every team's going to put their best game forward regardless. But it does go ahead and pose the question though, like if we had that fully healthy team, if Landeskog never had to go under the knife,
their ass.
If Nichushkin, even if McDermott and all that stuff,
I think we are.
Swear jar.
Sorry, I know I'm worse.
It's all good. It's all good.
No, you're fine. So it's just the
5280 podcast thing.
Yeah, the positive to come out of this is that we're missing what, half of our top six? Three of our top six. We lost Leckman
I
last
think we're
night.
missing
If
like
we
half the
weren't-
entire team.
Right.
That's why I'm wearing the Grizzlies jersey, is to see if I could get
more
if I could
relevant.
get somehow called up into the Avalanche.
Oh, I know.
One of the games, you know, because they're
We just,
dipping so far
we
down
don't
into the
have
gene
that
pool.
State. But it's I don't like to be a Debbie Downer, especially about my team. Like, I'm not one of those people that goes straight to like trade Gerard and trade, Comfort, get rid of them all. Georgie sucks. That was weak. He would have had that one back, as they like to say. And it's I think the biggest positive, because I am like just kind of sad. This is such a buzzkill when it's something so far out of their control. And then the people who say we need better trainers. Okay, well, trainers actually don't train them to not get hit in the foot where it breaks.
Or in the
Trainers
nose,
don't
like that.
train people to not get body slammed. We're not pulling muscles. I mean, maybe Rodriguez could be considered, but it was so fluky. I've watched it like a million times, and I wish I knew how hard JT Miller hit his knee. And that's the only fluky one. But like, if you truly expect a team to not have like a pulled muscle or tendon at some point, then you don't have very realistic expectations. But I see the positivity in that when these guys are back and rested AF, we should essentially be unstoppable. We should not be winning as much as we're winning right now. We should absolutely not. And it's bewildering to look at how down this feels, but really we're hanging above 500, and that's what we said. We just got to stay 500 without Lindy. We're dropping the flag, and we're still hanging above 500.
And that's all due to the coaching. I mean, the coaching of this team.
Tampa mentality, get into the playoffs.
Yeah, the coaching of this team is instilling in these players that they can do above and beyond what they're actually been able and capable of doing. And I think that's only going to be beneficial down the road, because as long as we can stay above 500, get these players back. My concern is this: when we get the players back, are we going to be in the top 5 of our division in order to have a good seeding in the playoffs? That's what scares me. We're going to have a Landeskog back or not. Yeah, we're going to have a Landeskog back till February.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be nice to not go in having to face the number 1 team with us.
Exactly.
I mean, we're essentially going to be putting a whole new team together again. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to have to figure out lines. Granted, we'll have more familiarity, but when you consider who might not be back, there's going to be several people that are going to have to learn to play with this team all over again. I mean, we are literally looking at Martin Kaut being a second liner going into the playoffs. It's just it's so disheartening, and you got to feel for the guys, because they got to be tired. They just won the cup like 9 minutes ago, and now it's like
9 minutes.
it's crazy though, and we have very intense people, but God, I mean, how much can you ask of them? And that's why they're professional athletes, and I sit here with my fruit snacks and sometimes, and do podcasts. But it's just you feel for them, and I just it'd be nice to get some feel good wins, and it would be really nice for Frankie to never have a bad game again.
Yeah, and that was just it, because one of the notes that I touched on, or was going to touch on, I apologize, is throughout last week you let 14 goals total, which that is just a ridiculous number. And honestly, it shouldn't matter what squad you have, and even if you threw in a win in there, the goals, just as soon as they get another goal, any team that we played last week, it was just like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose the game. And that can be accredited to a number of things. I mean, there's still that argument that I have with myself as far as like, well, it wasn't really Georgi Everfrenso's fault. It was kind of a fluky goal and stuff like that. However, it just seemed like every game, minus the exception of Buffalo, which, side note, we won the face-off percentage in that game.
Yeah, that's a miracle.
Like, that's a Christmas miracle.
Everything else, and we're
pretty much. But the defense just allowed them to just come into our zone, set up shop, and it just seems like no matter what we do, we couldn't bat the puck out of the zone.
And there's been, I think that Frankie has definitely had not great couple games. Georgie, I mean, a lot of Georgie's goals, and I can get on my goalie soapbox here, but everybody is like, oh my God, he overcommitted on that so much. But we also have to consider that he's a smaller goalie coming from the 5'5" goalie, but he's a 6'1" goalie. And that move he took coming way out of the net, it was, I think, 2 goals that he got burned on, and people are like, absolutely think that shouldn't be happening. But with the defense that he has become accustomed to, he should be able to challenge like that and know that his defense has him covered behind. I mean, that's what you're relying on. And I talked to Chris from Locked On today about that, is like, he's got an elite defense that he can generally rely on. When you're skating out to pressure them to take that shot, you expect them to take that shot. And when you're out 2 feet above the crease and they're coming in, you know, anywhere between the top of the circle and the hash marks, usually they're going to panic and shoot, unless you're a god like Tage Thompson, and apparently a lot of patience. But the thing is generally they're going to shoot it, and it doesn't matter, as long as you're square, it's going to hit you in the chest, and then you rely on rebound control. And what is Georgiev elite in is rebound control. And if you get burned, that's why you have these incredible world hockey changing defensemen around you laying on the ground. Eric Johnson is sprawled out, just making ice angels, and he got burned, and that sucks. And I was telling Chris, is like, I'd much rather just have a nice clean snipe from literally, even if it's in the press box and they snipe me, versus having that you come out and then turn around and watch them behind you shoot in, because when you get burned on that challenge, it looks extra stupid. And I've been the receiver of that many times in my life.
Yep. And that's just one other thing, though. It's like, given the depth and how just new some people are, like Jean-Luc Foudy, and now I think we just called up Udon. You know, it's how long do you think, and we'll start with Bill, how long do you think we're going to just limp along with all these injuries, and do you think we sustain any more? I guess it's a 2-parter question. How long are we limping? And then how do we sustain any more?
Well, I don't know the time frame of these guys coming back. I don't think any of us really do. It's obviously, you know, up to the medical staff and coaching. But as long as these guys can continue to progress and get better, I mean, they're not professionals. Okay, let me backtrack by saying that. I mean, obviously, they weren't in the NHL prior to being called up from the Eagles. So they are professionals. But what I'm saying is, if they can learn from the McKinnons, and they can learn from the from McCarrs, and they can learn from these other guys as how to play the game at this level, I think we'll be okay. I don't think we're going to be great, but I think we'll be okay. And as long as we don't go into a 4 or 5 or 6 game losing streak,
that's what worries me.
Exactly. And if we can continue to, okay, we lost 2 out of these last 3. We play Philadelphia tomorrow in Philadelphia. We got to win this game. We have to go 2-2 on this road trip. If we can go even 500 on the road and have majority wins at home before these guys come back, I think we'll be okay. The problem with it is like Nick mentioned, and it's the second part, are we going to sustain any more injuries? And if we do, obviously we are going to suffer greatly, no matter how many minor league guys we bring up. Period.
Right. We've got Myers injured. I think he's close, maybe playing again with the but
the Eagles.
Even when you look down, you've got Bowers injured. Is Sampo just came back? I think, and it seems like he's maybe still playing injured. I don't know, but I mean, our depth replacement are injured. We are literally running out of runway, and I don't know. And I know that other teams.
Can you play? Can you play?
Do I play?
No. Can you play? I mean, we may need you.
I'm always down. I mean, I told my husband, I feel like no matter what amount of gear I would wear, one of those would still have to just break my bones. I just don't understand, you know. And then it's like extra wild when you look at guys like Darcy Kemper and think like this dork is still brave enough to stand in front of like 93-mile-an-hour slap shots. It's just like it's kind of mind-boggling, honestly. But
that's always been my. How do you do that? How do you stand? Like I couldn't be a catcher in baseball or a goalie in hockey. I'd be scared to death.
See, I love playing hockey and I love playing goalie. I've never regularly played any other position, and I've never felt like scared of a shot. And I've played some really competitive with some pretty hard shooters, but honestly, in the NHL, you're almost safer because it's so their shots are clean and crisp and predictable, I guess is what the word you might be able to use, versus like that one beer league guy who can shoot really fast, but no one knows where it's going. Like those are the scary ones. But yeah, I will definitely, they can call me anytime. I'll take one for the team. They can do whatever they need. I told the Musketeers the same thing last week. I think our goalie was like sick or something. And somebody's like, are you going to sit on the bench? I was like, you have no idea how much I would love to get out there and get my ass kicked, but it would be fun.
Yeah. And looking at this month's schedule though, so we have 13 games left.
Yeah.
And of those, only 4 are away, right? So it's a pretty good homestead that we're going to have.
Yeah.
With with Nichushkin, he's coming back. I saw him. He's on the ice again, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think, I think it might be one guy a week. You might start getting someone back. So hopefully December, assuming everyone else kind of stays right where they're at, more or less, doesn't get any other injuries and stuff like that, we might begin to tout more people week by week. And hopefully, by the end of the year, the 31st, and you're hosting Toronto, hopefully by then you have players like Byram, Nichushkin, maybe Lehkonen. I don't know
Manson.
The extent of his injury, but Manson, you have all those guys back eventually. So fingers crossed that we have like a nice little New Year's break that we begin to get these players back. But for right now, that's kind of at least the I guess goal date, the target date that I've set, at least in my mind, is the end of the month. And by then you should have 90% of all your players back that were injured, because they said they were week to week, day to day, getting back on the ice, whatever it is. That should be ample enough time for players to start coming back.
I really hope Bednar's pulling some crap and Gabe comes back early, pulls a Brad Marchand and comes out and scores a flipping hat trick.
Well, and that's just it. I wonder if they overshot it on purpose.
I hope so. Oh my God. I hope
so it's, he comes back earlier and the day is saved, honestly.
Comes in riding a cape with a cape.
I find when I'm looking at my notes and like reading stats and stuff, and I'll like hear of a random person, and you like, at this point, you start to forget people exist that are on our roster that are injured. And it's like, oh my God, we could have this guy. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm like, you just forget that Bo Byram has been out for ever.
Absolutely.
It seems, and it's just like, oh my God. And now every person that comes back is exponentially. I mean, even Helm back at this point could have changed the Boston game drastically. I mean, we have children leading lines. We are expecting Alex Newhook to carry a second line of a couple of other amateurs, with Galchenyuk, who plays poor defense. And, it's just like, we can't, beyond the first line, a lot of it is the new leading the blind, and they're young. They're
Colorado
young.
Eagles.
That's really what we are.
Seriously.
And when I say like not, I don't mean like they're not good, because as I'll always say, the worst NHL player is still one of the top 1% players in the world. McDermott is still one of the best hockey players in the world when you consider. But respectively, I just pray to God, and this is one of the reasons I wish we could get Landy back first, that I really hope that our locker room can keep it good vibes, because that's when you get in that losing mentality. We have a lot of new faces, like that could change a lot real fast. And these kids, they're going
to learn one way or another.
Right. And that's what I love Foodie, and I truly think he's going to be an exceptional NHL player someday, but I really just want him out. I just don't want to Tyson Jost him. I don't want to I don't know. The kid's tough as crap though. He doesn't give a shit apparently, because he's out there. I think that it's it's kind of nice to see these kids doing things, pushing them a little harder than I think is good for them. But we are getting a very good look at, who we're going to be pulling up. And the other plus side is somehow our goalies haven't gotten injured when.
Oh, gee, don't even go there, girl. Don't even go
Knock
there.
on wood.
Manifesting my call up.
Ooh,
So,
that was not good.
So to put that in perspective, though, kind of what you were saying, let me go ahead and show you or just run you by the current Avalanche squad, and I'll do this really quick. So the top line as it currently sits from the Boston game, the end of the Boston game, your top line was Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Jean-Luc Foudy.
Okay.
Did anybody have that on their bingo card?
Nope, absolutely freaking not. I would have thought that Bednar would just sign Sakic to a 25-minute contract.
Pretty much.
Promo.
So your second line is Andrew Cogliano, JT Compher, and Logan O'Connor. That is your second line.
Yeah, you and Andrew Cogliano, like our fourth line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your third line is Alex Galchenyuk, Alex Newhook, and then they threw in, I think it was Bleed onto the third line. And then they basically just threw in Jason Magna and Dryden Hunt. Just kind of, it was basically a 5-man third line that they just kind of rotated.
Magna always exists.
Yep. So that's just your offense. Your defense is Makar and Taves. Great. We don't want to touch that. Gerard and Johnson, also great. Don't want to touch that, even though with Byram and whatnot, that would switch around. And then Jacob McDonald and Andreas Englund.
Brutal.
Once again,
brutal.
Exactly.
Jacob McDonald. I would have personally sought Trouba out to hurt him after he hurt Jacob McDonald. That England, it's so brutal. It's just like a big.
It's a train wreck. It is.
It really is. Yeah. And so your injuries that you're looking at, I forgot to throw in Martin Cow. He could kind of go into one of those third or fourth lines. Your injuries as it stands is Evan Rodriguez, who was week to week. Bowen Byram, who was week to week, but that was some time ago, so he might be on the way back. Shane Bowers.
Have you heard anything of who were we just talking about?
Bo Byram?
Yeah, has he been on the ice at all? I don't even
I don't know, but it was quite a while ago that it was quite a while ago that he actually was put onto the injury list. Yeah. So I would expect that he would come back. Something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so far they're week to week, but I thought Byram was on his way back in some capacity in the next week or so. Anyways, Shane Bowers, we definitely do. And like all these guys I'm naming, minus the exception of the typical AHL goers, you begin to really feel just how much you're missing them.
Right.
You know, in any sense,
everything changes.
Let's see. Shane Bowers, who played a whopping minute 9 of ice time on his first NHL game.
I know that was so heartbreaking.
So sad to see.
You hope for the kid, you really do.
And you're like, well, his minute and 10 seconds looked really good.
It did. It really did. You had a lot of hope.
Just the biggest buzz.
Now, is he done for the year?
No, so right now it just says his duration is 6 weeks. I think it was a couple broken ribs or something like that.
God, yeah, he took it.
You know, I say that like it's simple and it's nothing, but
it's simple.
And they tell pay though, so it's all good.
I know. Let's see, Valeri Nichushkin.
What the heck?
Valeri Nichushkin, 4 weeks, but that was done. I mean, he was out since around Halloween time.
Because he was 4 weeks prior to them declaring it had to be surgery, right? Like he's been on the ice.
I don't know. But there were pictures of him on the ice and skating. And I heard that Landeskog is beginning to just skate on his own.
Yeah,
just doing basic skating. But that's the thing. It's like it's a step in the right direction. You know, anything you hear about them getting back on the ice or whatever, you're just, oh my gosh, you're so happy.
I know that they're alive at this point, for God's sake. You think he's kidnapping our guys and they just, who knows?
I know, right? Josh Manson, week to week. So he never made that Boston game. He ended up going back to Denver. We don't know what for, though. They just say that it's just
said
in
lower body injury.
lower body injury. That's all they said.
Yeah, well, it could be anything.
That could. I know. It's like I love the
they-
non-disclosure stuff of the
I know.
NHL. Where
Well, and then the Avs. Bednar is the most tight-lipped man on the face of the earth. I can't recall. I think it was on a pod today that somebody said that they thought he had a recurring shoulder injury. But if they did for sure release that it was lower body, then that's not super helpful. But we also have to remember that Manson is kind of injury prone in his career. So
yeah. Curtis McDermott, that was 5 weeks, but that also feels like it was about 5 weeks ago. And like even having him back, you'd be like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, anybody.
Have the enforcer, anybody, right?
Yeah.
And then Darren Helm, who his duration's unknown, and I wish I knew what in the world was going on with him. But that's
That does not
1,
sound
2,
good.
3, 4, 5,
um,
6, 7. Wait, hang on. Let me recount this. 1, 2,
Top guys.
3, 4, 5, 6 from who
Right.
played in game 1 of opening day, but 8 total from those who are on the Avalanche squad.
mhm.
That's a lot of players.
And yet we still have a winning record.
I know.
That's the part
It's
that,
really
that
hard
I'm
to
hanging on to.
It really is. It's I need to like put a string on my finger that's like we're okay. It's okay. It's just
Mhm. Yep.
it's
It's just a phase. We'll grow out of it.
it's hard. It is. But I think the second we have 2 of those people back, everything will feel
Oh yeah, and like
them. What do you get up for right now if you're them? They're meaningless games, in a lot of minds. They're you're going into some games knowing that you're probably gonna get your ass kicked, and you're going into some games knowing that you need to kick butt or you're going to be a mockery. I mean, the Coyotes will go beat the Bruins, but
it's out of spite that they do that, by the way.
Yeah.
but that's just hockey. It's like it's absolutely absurd, but that's the game, and that's Coyotes. They're doing things.
I know. Out there in Mullet
500.
Arena.
Yeah, they're saving the real tanking for
I know.
deadline when they trade their what's their boy Chikrin?
Jacob Chikrin. Yep.
But
Do you think the Avalanche are just waiting it out? And I maybe I shouldn't use that word, waiting it out, but do you think the Avalanche are just biding time? Put it that way, biding time, picking and choosing. Again, sounds kind of like you're tanking on certain games, which I don't want to say that they are, but they take other games more seriously,
and that's
the more winnable ones.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys think
Just so that they can get their players back.
Of that?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Do you think Frankie being in last night was kind of we don't have a lot of faith in this game, or do you think that do you guys feel like Bednar has? I think that he not values, but I think like play wise, he puts Georgie above Frankie. But do you think that Frankie being put in last night had anything to say about whether they thought they would win or lose that game, or whether they were going to utilize that game as
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bill, go ahead.
100%. 100%. I think that he put Frank in there because he wants Georgia tomorrow against Philadelphia. I believe he feels that's more of a winnable game than against Boston.
Tomorrow is more important. We need to win the winnable games. That's right, and not go out there and absolutely destroy ourselves trying to win.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my answer to that question, I'm leaning actually more toward no as far as who he puts in for goalie, because you got to remember Francouz, he's just as trustworthy as Georgiev.
You think so?
Well, in the sense that you got to remember, like he put up just ridiculous games against Carolina within 5 days of each other, so he's more than capable of doing it. So I don't necessarily think it's a trust issue, but it's more of I do want to make sure that the winnable games, just what Bill just said, I want to make sure the winnable games stay winnable. And anything else, for example, this Boston game that we also have coming up on Wednesday, those are going to be the ones like kind of like what we were talking about, scheduled losses. And usually when you have that healthy team, those aren't a thing. That scheduled losses just don't exist.
Exactly.
But when you have 8 people, out of the lineup, there are those where it's like you do have to pick and choose your battles, just kind of what Bill was referring to.
And I'm
So
curious
in that,
if we'll come back by Friday.
what's
Anyone? Have we heard is there any chance anyone comes back on Friday? We suppose
the closest one I have seen so far is honestly Nichushkin. He's the only one I've seen on the ice, because that's about in that time frame that he'd start to at least skate and stuff like that. So it maybe this week, maybe next. I don't know. I haven't heard too much. But Allie, my wife here, does bring up a good point as far as tomorrow's game. She says, I think Georgiev is more consistent, but Francouz can come up in big moments, and that's exactly why you got both of them. You know, is to make sure that you have your solid solid goalie A, and a very dependable backup goalie 1B, right? And so, yeah, to your point, I don't think it's necessarily you can't trust one over the other, or you trust one more than the other. But the numbers do speak for themselves as far as play, right? And Georgiev, as far as numbers and stats go, is playing better, right? And so you do want to have him in those more winnable games. And speaking of winnable games, we'll go ahead and go into this week's schedule, because it's going to be quite an interesting schedule, to be honest with you.
I know.
So the first game we did brush on it just a little bit is in Philly against the Flyers tomorrow, which is why we're filming this episode tonight, so that doesn't get in the way of anything. And the Flyers right now are hurting pretty bad, kind of similar to the game in Buffalo. I think is how it's going to go. It's, you are more than capable of winning with the squad you have and all the injuries that you've sustained, but it might be more of a battle than you think, just because Philly, is going to put their best foot forward.
They need a moral win as much as, frankly. I think they're just off a 10-game loss streak, 2 of them this year or something. They've had
something like that. Yeah. So in that sense, though, you do think you can put it to bed pretty easily, just given how goalie play is going, how actual production is happening. And you got to remember, we are still at least producing, minus the Winnipeg game, of course. We're still competing and producing at a high clip, right? Our power play is still number 1 in the league. Our penalty kill, it's okay, it's kind of middle of the pack, but it's enough to get by. So it still has the makings of, you should be able to win this game, because we're 13-8-1, if I'm not mistaken. Philly right now is just the opposite almost. They're 8-12-5, right? So again, it's another winnable game, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. What do the Avalanche have to do in order to win this game? Because you got to remember, you take it one game at a time, but just looking at tomorrow, who they're up against with the Flyers, Bill, we'll start with you, and then Brittany will go down to you. What needs to happen for the Avalanche to win the game?
First and foremost, the Avalanche have to come out with some energy. They have to come out with some passion, some energy, some desire to win this game. They can't sit back and just say, okay, we're on the ice and we should win this game, and so we're just going to show up. You can't do that, especially with the guys we have injured and those that are called up from the Eagles to take their place. 3 points. We have to have solid goaltending by Georgiev. Solid goaltending. He's got to be on his A game. We cannot take ridiculous penalties. Cannot allow Philadelphia to have a power play. Yeah. And then when it's 5-on-5, the Avalanche have to play their game. They have to check, they have to back check, and they have to make passes. And when you have a lane to shoot, McKinnon, please shoot it. Don't try and make the perfect pass. Okay, just shoot the puck. That's what I think I have to do.
All right, what about you, Britt?
A lot of the same things. I really think the keys are going to be coming out fast. We don't have the feet. We don't have the speed or the endurance or like the literal NHL players that can handle comebacks. This is the year of the comeback in the NHL, except for us right now. So I really think that we need to not be down ever, because I just don't know if we have the mental toughness with our AHL players right now for comebacks, or the endurance. And I know this is like kind of a cop out, but we need Georgie whoever's playing to stand on their head, and that's what it comes down to. And said this at the beginning of the year. We have not had a franchise goalie almost essentially since Waugh, maybe Varley a little bit, but we need, and I think he's very capable, but we need our goalie to stand on their head. We need a goalie to finally just steal games for us in these desperate moments. And I hate just saying, goal scorers got to go score goals and goalies got to stop shots, but that really is, we need Mac, we need Makar, and we need Georgie. And it's, we need to play 60 minutes. And that's these sleeping shifts there, especially teams like Boston. What do the Avs do? We take people's mistakes and shove them down their throat. And that's exactly what Boston did to us. They capitalized on every mistake that we made last night. And we need to not that the Flyers can capitalize the same, but we need to play a full 60 minutes because we just seem to always have that sleepy time. And if we can't come from behind, then that's going to kill us over and over again. And we need this win in Philadelphia to use as hopefully a springboard, because truly, if we get out of Philadelphia with a good win and we're feeling good and we get Nuke or Helmer, really anyone back, I think that could maybe lead to some kind of miraculous game in Boston if we've got a hot goalie and a good vibes.
Yeah, well, and this might be an omen. My wife's doing her research here. RotoWire is saying that Byram and Nichushkin are projected to be back on the 7th, Wednesday.
Beautiful.
Not sure how legit that is, but both players have been skating for a little while.
Good.
So if the projection stands, we will get those two marquee players that you are hoping for back. So and that's exactly it. What you were saying, Britt, is you not only do you have to win the game on tomorrow, right? You have to win in a dominant fashion. It's a lot to ask given the squad that you have currently, right? But it's nothing that is impossible, right? It is very much achievable.
Especially against Philadelphia.
Exactly.
Boston, fair, but not Philadelphia.
And my wife covering her tracks here. If it's wrong, it was RotoWire, not me. But it's at least something to go off of. So we maybe we take that to a little bit to heart, and hopefully by Monday or Wednesday, if not Friday, then they're back. But the big key to the game for tomorrow is do not play passively. This is my key to the game. Do not play passively. The thing I saw it was especially glaring against Winnipeg. It happened a ton in Boston, even though you were still relatively in the game up until those back-to-back goals. And then it still happened a ton in Buffalo. Is you just played passively with the puck. There was no offensive aggression whatsoever, So you just have to get stuff done on the offensive side. If you have the puck, keep the puck.
Especially because that's our game.
That's the Avalanche way of playing the game. They are the ones that usually set the tone. They're the ones that control the pace. If you do that, 10 times out of 10, you'll win the game. It's just as simple as that. So, and when I say don't play passively, I mean, play physical, play mean, play that with that sense of urgency. We brought that up a few times here in this podcast, is the urgency you have to play with. Not necessarily like panic button or anything like that, but you just have to play with a purpose that you need to go score a goal. Do that again and again and again. It's that type of aggressive play that the Avalanche need to have, and I know their squad can do that. So if they can do that tomorrow, they'll have just as fine a chance to win in a dominant fashion as anyone else. And touching on your point, have an aggressive, I guess not an aggressive goalie, but that wouldn't be too good to say.
Not aggressive.
but just a solid goalie game. One goal, maybe two. That's kind of it.
He's a guy that's gonna, if he can get on a heater and steal that game tomorrow and just feel his darn self going into Friday. That Georgie could pull off a 45-shot shutout. He's got that, and we can get a goal. So worst case scenario, I truly believe if Georgie I think he's crazy, like that quiet crazy. So I truly think when he seems a little off and just, oh my God, I hope he's not playing with some kind of ouchie, but I truly believe that he could steal a Boston game for us Friday, but we got to get right in the head tomorrow.
Yep. So with all intents and purposes, though, this is one of those that in my honest opinion, we should win the game.
Mhm.
And
I
I'm
think we
curious,
still
are they
will
Olmark
outplay them
full
regardless.
time?
What's that?
They're playing Olmark. I would be curious if we'll be seeing Olmark again, which I'd imagine we will, because they got off so hard on beating us last time that I can't fathom they would do anything to risk that.
Maybe.
And that's another thing with this year is we're generally seeing the best that everybody has to offer because they want to beat us and they don't.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
So next game we do have on the slate on Wednesday, you are hosting Boston again, right? So it's like you just went from let's just get this game
The
over.
furnace
and
to
done
the
with.
frying pan.
Pretty much, right? So maybe with this Nichushkin and Byram news, this might change, but this might be one of those where it's like, we're still not fully healthy. Play the game and play hard, but
at home,
you don't know. You don't know. I'm just saying, do we, don't we?
I'm saying if you're playing at home, if you're playing at home in front of your fans, you have got to give it 1,000%. I don't care.
Absolutely. Especially when you consider that rink has to be just insane this year. Considering the ticket prices this year, it better be. But they'll get up for that. They'll definitely
have to.
They'll score goals for that, because if we have a man on our team who is compelled to perform, it is Nathan McKinnon. His head is like this just little hamster wheel that never stops. I can't
hamster wheel.
I
love that, Britt.
Yeah. I think that something has to give with him. Obviously he's not playing. He had like a 5-point night the other night, but I'd be curious to know, the locker room vibes, but I think that's something he'll get up for, playing at home. We won every home game in January last year.
Every game, all but one.
Yeah.
But we were undefeated at home until, what was that streak last year? Until
it was like a 14
like 18
game,
or
18.
Yeah,
it was something long.
Ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, I will agree with you guys on this one. After the question that I posed, or at least I changed it into a question. You got to remember that with that Boston game, as bad as the score looked, you were still in the game score-wise. It was 3-1 up until a certain point, right? So we don't count those two. It was just a 3-1 win for Boston. But you were still in that game regardless of who you had, right? It was that squad that, with all the injuries and whatnot, this game, like I said, every game, you never know what's going to happen. Boston could have a dud of a game. The Avalanche could be on a tear. You don't know, right? So just the fact that they were in there, my key to the game is power. That's just it. Just power. You need to have power on shots, passes, pass with intent, shoot with intent, stuff like that. And we touched on that a little bit. If you have
how about hard checking? Hard
checking. Anything you do, you need to do it with power. But mind you, too much power will get you 2 minutes in the box.
That's true.
Right?
Well,
so be smart with it.
Guys, that Manson's not here.
Maybe, right?
He's got to chill out on the penalties. And a lot of them have been soft. The reffing has been very bizarre. And then the second you think that it's predictable in whatever weird paradigm they choose, then it's a different. It's definitely been hard, but Manson needs to figure out when they're calling every hook, stop hooking, stop cross checking. It's and I like England, but I'm also just kind of ready for.
Well, hopefully Wednesday's the day, and we're definitely not holding my wife to that day. We're holding RotoWire to that date. Remember, keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
So
I'll talk with her in person.
There you go. So we'll go back to Bill. What needs to happen in the Boston game? You said they're back at home. Are we using energy? What are we thinking as far as what needs to happen for them to knock out a win at home against Boston?
The crowd has to be insanely loud. They have to bring it. They have to yell. They have to make it so intensely loud that Boston can't even think and they can't even get their signals. That's from the fans' perspective. From the players' perspective, if it's Georgiev or Frankos, either one, they have to be the best game they've ever played. absolutely the best game they've ever played this year so far. Again, I go back to the game against Philadelphia. No mistakes. Stay out of the penalty box, especially stay out of the penalty box, please, because Boston isn't incredibly good on their power play. Stay out of the penalty box. Take advantage of their mistakes.
Right.
They had penalties in Boston we didn't take advantage of. We have to take advantage of it at home, especially. And the last thing has to be is they have to play this game smart. They have to play it not scared, not timid, but smart.
Right.
They have to make the
Defensive
right
almost.
choices. Excuse me?
Defensive almost.
Oh, yeah.
Against Boston.
Absolutely.
I mean, the injuries that we've had have not all just been like them falling on their own. They're being injured by someone. And that's what last night was kind of shocking. Was that McAvoy that, I mean,
Tackled Lekin into the ground,
Yeah.
ultimately injuring him.
Like,
Yeah.
And if
And no
I
call,
swear to
too.
God, if Lehkonen comes back with like some long-term massive injury,
Yeah.
I will hate Boston so much more than I already do.
She will travel right to Boston. She'll fly there that night, find McAvoy, and slap him across the face.
Yeah. Right after I lick his face. Just so he can
tackle him to the ground and pin him down. Upper body injury, out 2 to 4 weeks.
And I'm not all about that gong show hockey, but I just really wish that McDermott was here, even more so than Manson, because I like.
He's an enforcer.
Yeah, I would like
He's
to. I
he's
like
our
to
goon.
Manson for actually playing hockey, and McDermott has his role, and then when he's in the box and kicked out, it doesn't affect us, offensively or on the ice nearly as much as Manson. Which, as much as I love seeing Manson knock Ben out, I like seeing him shovel soft little goals even more when he's in position. So it would be. I never thought I could miss Curtis McDermott so much.
Nope, and that's just it. You guys bring up just perfect points. It's an attainable win, right? You can. You just need to make sure that you play mistake free, have the power, stuff like that. You can do it, and with that home crowd behind you, expect to have a good game. I expect it definitely to be a good game.
Travesty that we don't get to see these two teams play healthy, because that could be possibly one of the most entertaining games in the NHL all year. I mean, you've got two of the most intense players in the NHL in Mac and Marchand, in totally different people, though. I mean, it just these should be good games. I feel like we're truly being deprived of a wonderful show, but they can take their win and feel like they earned it, and we'll just beat them later.
Yeah.
Well, they beat the Colorado Eagles. What they did.
That's right. They beat half the Avalanche and half the Eagles. They didn't really beat us.
Exactly.
The Eagles, like the bottom of the Eagles too, where we get the Eagles probably,
and a couple of Grizzlies players too. That's speaking of entertaining games, Friday, there's a beautiful conflict of interest in the Bichsel household. That is the day the Rangers come into town to play the Avalanche.
Man. Remind me, I gotta talk to your wife about Trouba. We got.
Oh yeah, there's opinions on that, definitely. But anyway, so the New York Rangers are coming in on Friday. So this will dictate more than likely me sleeping on the couch the following night. But in either sense, they're also a team that has been hitting struggles. I've been watching the Rangers game with my wife whenever they're on, and they've just been hitting struggles as well. So it's going to be one of those games. It's good. And for those of you who aren't watching this live or listening to it, she just comments, "Oh, please." But they're one of those teams as well that they need to find their footing again, and they got that shootout loss against Georgiev, and they're going to try to play with a vengeance. They're going to play mad. They are.
Oh, right? For sure.
That's just the type of team they are.
They're in their own personal struggle and then their own vendetta against us.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think? What do you guys think then? Because I was kind of pondering this earlier in the week. What does this mean for goalies planning? I mean, are we going to? I would imagine we want to play Georgia against the Flyers, but then are we gonna throw Francouz to the Wolves again to Boston and then put Frankie or Georgiev back in, or are we just gonna start Georgiev for 3 games? Which I know he's not opposed to. That's a huge topic that is reoccurring. He wants start after start after start, and 3 games might be exactly what he needs to go out there and throw a big, huge game for the Rangers. But you know that no matter what this week looks like for him, he is going to be balls to the walls against the Rangers. And I don't think Bednar would deprive him that game.
No, because that was one of Georgiev's greatest games, and as far as the season goes, was that game against the Rangers. You know, he let in a couple, but so did Shesterkin. The shootout was incredible. I would anticipate it's not a far reach to assume he plays all 3 games. However, my guess, my wonder, I guess I should say, is if Francouz plays this game against Philadelphia, and then it's Georgiev against Boston and New York. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask for Georgiev, to play 2 powerhouse teams right in a row.
Okay,
but you don't know. Maybe it'll happen.
But if we have Nuke and Byram back on Wednesday, is it too much to ask Frankie to take Boston again?
I don't think so.
That he might want that, because that's how a lot of times when I make a mistake.
Bill, you sound opinionated on this.
Well, when I play that game, I could literally stay on the ice and just do a whole nother game to just. I need like an erase it.
A redemption.
Yes, always. And I'm not as calm, cool, or attractive as Frankie, but I feel like most goalies operate the same in that you can't feel right again until you do that. And
Bill, what do you got on that, Bill?
Originally, I was going to disagree to a point because we need this game badly against Philadelphia. I would hate to have another loss going into Boston after we just lost to them yesterday. But then on the flip side, Britt has a point where, when you've been smacked in the mouth, you want to come out there and say, okay,
hit him back.
That one's on me. Now I'm taking it to you. So I kind of get that. I'm just not sure that I want Frankie back in the net at home. Although when he's playing well, man, he feeds off of that chant of Frankie.
If only
Frankie.
you could know who was coming, because the thing is when Frankie's hot, he's hot. And what Ali said earlier is Georgiev, his worst games are generally still pretty decent. I mean, and it's a relative consistent. His game that he let in quite a few goals the other night brought him from a 93% save average to a 92, give or take the 10s. But I mean, he's literally so consistently taken that many shots and played that well that even a bad game is hardly affecting his stats. So that proves that that's consistency. I mean, I don't know. But
if you could only play Georgiev in one of these 3 games, which game would you want him to play?
With or without Nuke and Byram?
Either or. Which game would you want him to play if you could only play one? Boston, New York, or Philadelphia?
I'm kind of feeling what Allie's like. I think that New York is not the same New York that we faced 2 weeks ago. Their world-class goalie that saved them last year carried them on his back, literally.
Absolutely.
He is struggling mightily. I mean, it's and I like to talk shit to Allie, but I'm always cheering for the goalies in some fashion other than Bennington. I will find a way
don't you worry, we're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Goalies are being abused these days, though. It's a hard time to be an NHL goalie. I mean, things are changing and things are going to have to change. The game, the stats, the expectations. So either Shesterkin is going to come out on Friday and play against whoever and have the most ball-in game of his entire life, or we can consider them not. I don't even know if they're playing him regularly at this point. I would probably throw him in for Boston, honestly, just for especially if we have Nuke and Byram, because I think that's a really good chance at winning. Very good chance. I mean, when you consider that evens out our D and that gives us 2 stable lines, essentially. You know what I mean? I think that's a life changer. Even just adding Nuke and having 2 full NHL lines, like not even to have 2 full true top 6. Like I think that it would be worth putting him in on Wednesday and risking. Frankie's perfectly capable of beating the Flyers. He's perfectly capable of losing to them, but I think he's also perfectly capable of beating the Rangers, especially the state that they're in right now. They're also having some kind of dilemma amongst themselves with Trouba and his fanatics. There just seems to be their vibes are just totally off. I know that's like such a hippie way to say it, but his reaction after when he got kicked out or pulled or whatever he did,
Right.
Just things don't seem to be going good. And that's one thing I love about the Avs is like we don't, like I said on Twitter, we got 99 problems.
Yep.
To answer your question, Bill, I would probably put Georgiev into the Flyers game.
Oh, interesting. Whoa. Wow.
So
why?
Where'd
that come from?
The only reason I say this
is I got to stand up for this one. I got to readjust my chair for that.
The only reason, because my second option would be New York. Okay. But
because your wife.
Well, that too, but her Igor chant that you see here. But the only reason I say to put Georgiev back into the net for the Philadelphia game, I want to get him reestablished.
Right.
As far as his play goes, it's tough, and I get where everyone else is going to come from with this.
I get that, but
keep it in mind.
But
so you're saying so basically, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to get your thought on this. So do you think that maybe his confidence is lagging?
It seemed like because of the Winnipeg game and the Buffalo game, it seemed like he just wasn't himself.
Or maybe
he wasn't the same Georgiev that we have seen play like against New York and stuff like that. So I'd like to see him get back on his feet, and I don't want him to have to go through one of the better teams in order to do that. Now you can. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I think a team like Philadelphia, where you get a good, solid, great win, I think that builds a lot more confidence. Just to get that more than if you squeak by in like maybe an overtime win or whatever against one of the higher tier teams, that can bring confidence in its own right. But I think that's what I would do. But then again, I'm not Jared Bednar, so I'm not with them 24/7, But that's maybe what I would think.
On what they want. Does Frank want to go back out and get to Boston and get back at him, or is he saying I can't deal with those tags anymore? Is Georgie saying, I'm just not feeling the game right now. I don't want to get my ass kicked by my old buddies. I mean, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. That's really hard on the ego, especially after the performance he put up last time. Maybe don't even give him the option of, possibly making that feel good.
You think something's wrong with Georgiev?
No, I don't think. I think he's a really mentally tough person, and not like judgy or whatever, but he's Russian, so like they have. I would imagine he's a tough dude. I think he's just having a bad feel for the game right now, and I think that he's really being affected. Our defense has played very bad. Josh Manson has played very bad. Sam Girard had a couple of pretty, and I don't start talking about trading Girard, but he had a couple of pretty not good games there. Just came back from an injury, but I just don't think he's got a good feel for the game right now. And he does deserve to be saved once in a while too. Like he shouldn't have to be saving us all the time.
Right.
But EJ, couple of those goals, brutal EJ action. And if we could get Bo back,
it'd be a difference maker.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's just it actually with this New York game. Was one of my points to the game is be a difference maker on defense, because that's exactly what we're sitting with is a very lackluster defense. That it's just they're not, I before I screamed angrily at my TV for the millionth time during that Boston game. There were just so many of these ticky-tacky passes where you don't know where in the world the puck was going, like what their intent with it was, and B, it was just a bad pass to like a place where you knew traffic was, a defender was there to pick it off, so in order for you to beat this New York team, you have to make sure you have sound defense, and that applies to right off the bat, with the Philadelphia. But it's just another key to this game is to make sure that defensively you're not making dumb mistakes, right? Because it's mostly mistakes. It's not necessarily like, oh, I don't know how to
They're not all just
find the word.
Plays.
Yeah, you don't have to make the beautiful play and the showboat move. You just have to play technically sound hockey, right? It's going basic, back to the basics. How to deliver a great crisp pass to your teammate's stick, and if that is one of the technical problems, back to just basic hockey. And I know this is coming from me, who's never looks like a newborn giraffe when he's on skates.
Fundamentals.
But
we can't figure out what's wrong. I mean,
but yeah,
picture that, dude.
A newborn giraffe.
On skates. Yeah.
Oh yeah. My wife and I, we're gonna try to go skating here in a couple weeks. Just
good.
Little date night.
Let us know how that goes.
I guarantee she'll be filming it and sending it off to you guys so you can see exactly what it looks like.
So good.
But that's just it. It's back to sound defensive mechanics. That's what you need to do.
Knowing your role. I mean, these AHL guys can't come out here expecting to score goals while they're also surrounded by AHL guys. It's one thing when you're an AHL player and you get to come out and play with, Mac and Miko, and that's not this enchanting season where you can come out and be Cale Makar and score in your first game in the NHL, because frankly, the guy next to you might be even newer and worse, and it might be his first game too. So we need to let our goal, we need to let Max score, let our guys score, and
if he ever shoots,
make him shoot first.
We need to just stop the other team from scoring. And there's so much value in just being a good defensive forward when it's necessary, which it's necessary right now. Cause baby, you're not scoring on Olmark.
Do both of you, do you feel that perhaps these AHL players are in awe and just don't know how to handle the game situation at this level?
Oh, every time I look at him, I want to mother him. I think he's scared sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. And maybe that has a lot to do with their play on the ice.
And the thing is they can't even be surrounded by vets. And that's why even somebody like Helm on the ice, that would be a voice and a presence on the ice that would be so valuable. It would be so valuable. These guys, how old is Foodie? 20?
Yeah, he's a young boy. Yeah, he's super young. I would probably say yes, and to the fact that a lot of these AHL players have always wanted this to happen, right? And so I think they're kind of tripping over themselves because they don't want to make the mistakes, and so they're focused too much on trying to be the next cool play to stay on the roster and stuff like that. And just right back to what I said, just play the technical sound game of hockey and usually you'll be just fine. And you saw Foodie beginning to do that in the Boston game. He was finding his footing just fine when he finally got that new, he got his first game out of the way. He began to understand the system a bit more, stuff like that, and he skates really well.
Well, and that's just it. I think he's a little guy, so I think he sent his message and said, see, Bednar, my little is not going to hold me back. I came out here. I got penalties. I mean to, and now I'm going to skate because that's what that man does. Oh, my God. When he skates, it's
amazing.
Incredible.
He's fast.
He
is fast, and he is quick. And he's quick. He's quick to the point that he wants to get to.
Yeah. It sucks having him out there without some of our bigger presences. Not that they need to go fight people, but just that idea of McDermott is on the ice, so blah 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 makes people tone it down a little bit. If you were Boston, why wouldn't you be out of control last night? Who's gonna stand up to you? Jacob McDonald? I really hope that of all of our people that we've called up with Foodie, you got out of the way, you proved your point, because that has always been the concern with him, is he's a little dude. But you don't need to be big when you can literally skate between people's legs. I mean, he I've just never realized.
I just got this picture of some little elf or something running between some guy's legs.
Well, that would be Jean-Luc Foudy.
Yeah, I mean he needs to
that's good.
lean on that, and it'd be nice to surround him with people. Honestly, I think it was a great idea putting him on the first line with Mac, especially after Lehkonen is gone. What else are you gonna do?
It's the veteran presence where McKinnon will teach him a lesson on the ice as they're playing, as far as, hey, you pass this puck to me like this, and he'll never make that mistake again. You know,
exactly. Well, and instead of like moving like new hook up or something and then just making him struggle down low, like I just think that was a good idea to leave. I liked it, and I really would like to see him get a goal, get something, feel good.
I think
he's a passionate dude. Like I just have a lot of faith in him.
He's got hockey running through his veins, and I think this week, I expect Foudy to get his first NHL point. I think he's there. It might come by way of an assist, and I'd love for it to be a goal, but I expect him to get his first NHL point, especially if he's put on someone's line where there is the veteran presence there.
And even if it's like something that hits his butt, or on the way in, he's
one of the Cogliano goals.
Yeah, he's the goal stealer. But I just
the goal thief.
He's a guy that's fast enough to put himself in positions that maybe aren't, totally the correct NHL way, but I think that he can, outskate his issues. You know what I mean? Yeah. That he can overcome what he's lacking right now, unlike other call-ups, And does anybody know, was Ben Myers hurt? Can we call him up, or like what's?
I don't know. That's what I wanted to know if we could, because we haven't, and if we had the opportunity, we haven't. Which I'm like, duh. Why? He's already scored goals in the NHL.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not? But I think Foudy, if he gets one, he just needs the one. That's just the thing. He just needs the one, and he'll be off to the races.
I hope so, because we have been wanting him up, but it's like he's too young. We can't rush it. He's too young, and then it's like.
Well, now you kind of have to.
I know, and then I really hope that we can get another sniff of Bowers, because it hurts my heart. My mom.
Foudy had a really good rush against Boston on that the right side of the goalie. He almost snuck that in. He almost snuck that in. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, he went right around that defenseman like nobody's business, and just
he's not
made that incredible.
Scared.
No, he's not.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Nope.
It is. Well, when you're 20 years old, you're not going to be scared of too many
when your knees don't pop when you get out of the couch,
Thanks a lot, Nick. Thanks a lot.
Hey, I'm saying that happens to me, man. And I just turned 27. All right, my knees are popping already.
Oh my gosh, you're 27. Wow.
I know. Sorry, I just dated myself, but
anyways,
we'll move on to the St. Louis
37.
game. So we'll move on to the St. Louis game, and then we'll wrap it up here. So you got a vendetta in this game, right? A very frustrating loss the last time you met. I would sure hope that in this case you bring just, I don't want to say anger, because that might end up getting a lot of penalties, but you just need to play a lot more aggressive, with how, because St. Louis, they're a hard hitting team. They are a very physical team.
Very nasty.
Exactly. So you need to be able to take it in, just take a punch in the mouth, but you also have to be able to dish two if you take one. That's going to be my key to the game, is if you take one step backward, take two steps forward. Yep. Or strides. I guess I should call them strides. I'm not really good with my hockey puns anymore, but
of these and these penalties in the defensive zone, like in the offense. I mean, we gotta tune up on those stupid penalties, because that's not tough, and it's not.
Remember the Buffalo game? There were 8 penalties we committed.
Yep.
That is a terrible. Usually you'd think 3, one per period. That's about my allowance.
Right. And the thing is, they weren't good, powerful penalties. They weren't like hooking someone who was going to have a clear breakaway and preventing a goal, or cross-checking someone that was going to tap an open goal. And I mean, there are penalties worth taking, and none of them lately have been it, other than fighting JB Benn. Like, none of them have been it. It's
So does Binnington play? What a great question. That's what I wanted to talk about with you guys as far as the point on St. Louis. If he plays, who's to say he won't do anything boneheaded? Because I know he has a vendetta against the Avalanche, and the Avalanche have a vendetta against him.
I don't know.
If you're Craig Berube,
about you,
do you play? Do you play Binnington against the Avalanche, or do you let Thomas Greiss play and try to get a footing?
I think that he's probably so pissed that he's going to start investing in Greiss over worrying about Binnington. What would you imagine their conversations behind closed doors have been if he's willing to say that publicly?
Yeah. And Berube, he's one that he speaks his mind, right?
Yeah. But he likes his guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's just the thing though. It's like, the players always reflect the attitude of the coach. Right. And Binnington's case, I don't think a coach would say, "Hey, my goalie, I want you to go ahead and try to check someone that's getting behind the cage and fall over and then or throw a punch."
Commanding man.
I know, Jordan. Yeah. Well, but then like throw a punch. And it's like that's not something I don't think even Craig Berube would coach something like that.
With your blocker is such.
So I think.
But you are talking about the Avalanche. You're talking about the team that is in the same division as St. Louis, and they have a history of not liking each other. There's no love lost between these two.
Oh yeah.
And
Binnington, and they know that he'll get up to play us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last game was like the only good game he's had all year was against us.
Yep.
All 50 saves that
and Binnington last year when he threw that bottle at Nazem Kadri, of course Kadri's not in the team anymore, but it's still the Avalanche.
Oh yeah.
And it's still the frustration and the anger, and it spills over from last year into this year.
It solidified the rivalry for sure. I absolutely agree with you, Bill. I absolutely agree. In Berube's
mind, it's beneficial to make us feel wishy-washy and kind of stressed about having to play him because he's already crazy against us, and now he's gone full blown against everyone else.
Well, here's the other thing. Think about this. If they can get in the mind of the Avalanche and cause them to start looking around like this and turn their head on their back, they're turning their head on a swivel, now he's got inside their head. Exactly.
Who've had to watch it on YouTube instead of actually playing against him.
That's exactly right. So with that though, the game is in St. Louis in a week from the day, right?
Even harder.
And that is not an easy place for the Avalanche to win, right? Because St. Louis, they have a passionate fan base as well. In fact, my brother is a St. Louis Blues fan, and he can tell you all about it, right? So it's just a week of family conflict as far as hockey goes this week. Isn't it great?
Well, happy holidays to you, my friend.
Because both of their teams are so busy fighting their own personal battles that it's hard for them to unite to be against the Avs at this point. Because
I know.
Hopefully.
But that's just it. It's a division game, so it's going to be difficult, and in St. Louis, it's going to be even more difficult. But that's just kind of what we were just talking about. Is you have to be able to take a punch in the mouth and dish two back out. If Binnington's not playing, that is when you really, really need to have offensive firepower and get stuff through Greiss, because unless Binnington is playoff Binnington like he was in the game against us last meeting.
The thing is, he probably will.
And that's just it, and that's just it. Is they were on a down note going into the game last time, and then Binnington all of a sudden decided, let's get a new streak going. Exactly.
Yeah, we sent him on like an 8-game winning streak.
Yep. So if Binnington is not playing his game, or if Berube is not too happy with him and expect Greiss to go in, that's when you really need to just sock him in the mouth early and often throughout the game.
I feel like they'll play Binnington against us regardless. I think Berube would straight up tell him, "I still hate you, but you're gonna."
I hate you, but I need you to go on in this game.
That I know that this is what you live for, and we need to win this game to make a point, because they're kind of a laughingstock. I mean, people expected a lot more out of them. They gave up Husso, who a lot of people, would have picked, which they're stuck in that contract, obviously, but they should have worked to keep both of them. It's embarrassing that they let what's his face go, the part of their
Perron.
Yeah. That was bad juju, emotionally and on the ice. So they're really down and out.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, people need to realize is that there may be an A on the front of their jersey. It's not an A, it's a bullseye. because everybody is going after the Avalanche.
That's
period.
exactly right.
And that's why Bennington is going to play in St. Louis against the Avalanche. And that's why every team gets up for us.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's even beyond a personal thing. It's just this is a measuring stick. Here's the top. Where do you compare down? And it's they don't give a darn that it's our AHL team. They're beating the Colorado Avalanche, and it feels good. And that's all. Just like
That's exactly right. Well, anyway, guys, this was a fun episode. I really enjoyed having you both on here. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
it.
Love having you on. Once again, everyone, this is the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. If you like what you saw, go ahead, like, subscribe, follow to make sure you get notified when the shows go live. You can follow us at Cluster Puck Avs on social medias and the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook, Cluster Puck Avalanche, the Cluster Puck Podcast at gmail.com. For tomorrow's game, again, that's I believe 5 o'clock Mountain Time puck drop. So you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a week full of a lot of stuff. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for following us. Been a great episode. Been a pleasure doing this with you guys. Any last words you have? Wishing the team, the boys, good luck this week?
nope. If we lose to the Flyers, I'll probably go live on here and just scream at the top of my lungs for an hour straight. Or if anyone
right. Okay, Bill. Sorry. Any last words?
I'm good. Let's just get a win. Let's get a win in Philadelphia. And let's go home with a good feeling on our shoulders
And a smile on our faces. I love it.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. We appreciate you watching. Take care and go Avs go.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Cause this